Hello everyone, am I audible enough? Hello everyone, welcome to live session 5. Thank you for attending the session. Let's wait for 5 minutes and then we will get started. Let's get started. Thank you all for joining the session. Today we will be discussing parent-child communication in Lightning Web Component. Please subscribe to the channel and refer to your friends if you like the sessions. First topic is parent to child communication using property in Lightning Web Component. Before that, let's just understand the component communication basics. We can have parent to child communication, child to parent communication, child communication. Is my voice audible? Is my voice audible to you? Okay, is it clear enough? So I will just start again. Okay. So we will start to discuss parent to child communication using property in Lightning Web Component. So component communication in Lightning Web Component. So before that we have to understand what is component communication basics. So it's echoing for Harshita. Is it clear for everyone or is it echoing for everyone? Okay, for everyone it's echoing. Okay, I've just removed my headphone. Is it better now? Okay, I've removed my headphone. Hopefully now it's clear. So let me know in case voice doesn't come. Okay, so component communication in Lightning Web Components are of four types. So parent to child to parent communication, communication between two separate Lightning Web Components, and Lightning Web Component to Aura Component. So before that, we have to understand what are decorators. So decorators are very important topic to understand. So decorator is a part of ECMAScript and is used to add extra functionality in your functions or methods. So basically, it is in the simple form you can understand a decorator is like a simple way of wrapping one piece of code with another. Basically, literally decorating it and give it more functionality to the code. These decorators dynamically change the functionality of property or function. So as we prefix them before property or function, it adds logic to them. They are identified with symbol at the rate as prefix before a method or variable name. So you can see here, we put at the rate decorator name, and that's how we add the prefix before that. Whenever we want to use any decorator, we must need to explicitly import it from LWC. So you can see here the example, import lightning element decorator name from LWC. So LWC is the module and you are importing the decorator name, whatever decorators you want to go with. So here is the pictorial representation of what we just discussed. So here we can see that there is a function and we decorate that particular function with a particular decorator. So we wrap it around it to give more functionality to a function or a property. So types of decorators in LWC. We have three types of decorators. One is track, one is API, and then there is wire. Today our focus is to discuss API decorator, but it's good to know that there are other decorators as well. So just a basic understanding about the three decorators. So about the track, it's very important to know that with track we used to make private property reactive, but after Sprint 20 release we don't need to use it anymore. So it was creating a lot of confusion that when to use it, when not to. So because of that, they removed at the rate track decorator to make it reactive. What is reactive? So basically, if a field value changes and the field is used in the template, so then the component re-renders and displays the new value. So earlier it was happening when we were using track decorator with the private property, but now we don't need to do that. But we have to remember that when a field contains an object or an array, then we still need to use track decorator. So later we will be seeing it with the help of example, but this is about the track decorator. API, with the API we can expose a public property. Public properties are always reactive. So Reactive, we just understood that the component re-renders. So when the component re-renders, all the expression used in the template are reevaluated once again. And then at the at wire, when we need data from Salesforce, we go with wire as it is used to read the Salesforce data. So here our focus is API decorator, and today we got a basic understanding of types of decorator. So as we discussed, there are different types of communication: parent to child, child to parent, and then we also discussed between different Lightning Web components and from Aura to Lightning Web component. So right now we are discussing about pass data down, that is parent to child communication. So to pass data down in the component hierarchy, that is from parent to the child, the component must declare a public API. So there are two forms of public API. One is public property and another is public methods. So we will be understanding each one in detail with the help of example. So let's see with the help of example. To call a property from other component, we need to declare this property with @API decorator in the calling component. So here first of all we need to import, which we just saw. We have to put API and then we have to use @API. So you can see here it is parent to child communication. So in the parent we are calling the child component. So first of all we have to write the name C child, that is component, and then we have to write basically the property name coming from the child. So this is the property name. Here we have used @API decorator because we want this particular property to be used in the parent component. And because we want this particular property to be used, that's why we are putting it @API. Also, if you note, here it is written message and name is from capital. But when we are writing it in the parent HTML, we are putting it as message dash name. So whenever it is uppercase, before that we put hyphen and then put the lowercase. That's how we put in the another component. Another thing if you focus here is we have written C dash child, C hyphen child. So the thing is, if you don't use it, then you cannot expose the public property of child to parent. So you have to name the component. Here the name of the component is child. So you will be using child. And then equal to message. This is basically coming from the parent GS. So once we go with the example, it will be more clear to you. But this is an overview of how it works. So as we just discussed, parent component can make the use of public property. So there it was making the use of public property message, which was here's the message name. It was making the use of it, which was declared in the child. A component that declares the public property can set only its default value. So basically, what it says is here there is no default value given, but if you want, you can give a default value. But it's a read only value. If you pass the value here in the message also, it will take that one. So we will be understanding it more clearly later. A parent component that uses the child component its markup can set the child component's public property value. So basically, it just means to say that a parent component which is using the child component has to use the child component property, and it can do only if we are putting the C child. So far we are here. So now is the demo time. So let's go with a basic demo to understand how exactly it works. So I will create a Lightning Web component. Guys, if you have any question, please do ask, and we will be putting it in the chat section, and at the end we will be giving all the answers. So let's understand with the help of an example. We will be going to a particular HTML file, and let's see. So here what we want to note is that we could like if we want to write H2 here, for example, H2, and I want to just put my name. So if you put H1 to H6, then it will reset to the base value. So it won't be like if you are doing it using a normal HTML, that point of time it is increasing the headings from heading 1 to heading 6. But when it comes to Lightning Web Component, then all headings are reset to the base size. So then if you want to increase the size, then you have to specifically put it in the CSS. So instead of that, you can have a class with SLDS text heading medium and or medium or large or small we have, and you can use that and put the value. Or else what you have to do, you have to create a CSS, and in that you have to put the size. So right now let's take this, and I will go to the child.js. So here, first of all, I need to use the decorator name. Here, we are using API decorator. We will be using that. And let's give it name message from child. So we know that from where it is coming. And I'll just give name. So you can see that it is identified with the simple at the rate and prefix before the method, or or variable name right now which we are discussing. And to call the property from another component, we need to declare this property with the at the rate API decorator. If we don't declare it, then it won't be showing in another component. We can't expose it. So basically, here we are assigning the value, but this is the default value. If we want, we if even if we remove the value, it will get override. Parent component will override it. Let's see how it works. So let's create another component, which is a parent component. So meanwhile it is getting created. You see here it is message from child, and this particular message from child I want to use here. So if you want to use here, how you do? You put a braces, and inside it you call the property. When you are calling the property, then you have to then it is called an attribute when it is done in HTML. In JS it is property. So the same property which you used here, you named it here. So what should happen? It will should display Smriti. So I have done so far. Now, if I go to the parent, so what I have done so far. So we can add component within the body of another component. Then it is called as compose component. So you see there is a default namespace C, and it is used for referencing the component that we have created in the child component. So here we have named the child. Whatever name we put, we have to put it here. And then we use the dash separated reference for consistency with the web component. So you can see the dash reference is there. So message from child was given like this here, but we have used the hyphen here. And then here we are using the name. This particular property will be coming from the parent JS, which we will just create. Let's save this. So now what I am doing is we have created a property in the parent JS and I have given it the value as a DC amplified, and now it will override the value in the child component. So let's refresh. Here I have created a div, and here in the parent, in the child, I have written message from child Smriti. So now what will happen once you see the child component, you will be seeing Smriti here. But when you are calling the parent HTML, here you are overriding it with message from parent. So because of that, whatever is there in this particular attribute, that will be coming. So let's see. So if I want to start a local server, then simply I do SFDS start local development server. It's open for me, so I just simply open it. So here you can see child and parent. So let's see what happens in child. So see, here Smriti is coming in the child because we have exposed the property in the HTML. But what happens in the parent? Let's go there. So if you see, we have put Smriti, but instead of Smriti, it has overridden to SFDC amplified. So that's how it works. So here, what is happening? In the child, we are using message from child, and then when it goes to parent HTML, because we are defining message from parent, so it is taking that. So that's how our public property works. So if you go back and see, it's a similar example where you put the name and then you refer it in the child. So that's how it works. Firstly, it goes to the parent. In the parent, it shows the child, and from the child, it moves. Firstly, it goes here. From here, it tries to find message from child. So it goes to the child JS, and here it sees Smriti. But when it comes to the parent.js, it sees that the value is given as SDC amplified, so it overrides. So we need to remember that here it's just read only or default property, but actually it is getting set in the parent. So we can assign a default value to a public property, but we should never change the value of public property in the component itself. In this case, the child component. Remember, the purpose of this property is to be public API of the component. So only the parent component should set or change the value. We should not set or change the value here. So if you want and see, even if you remove Smriti, nothing will happen. You have to just define it, and if you save it, then it will automatically refresh and SFDC amplified comes. So that's how it works. So now let's create some little more complicated app. It is related to Shashank Singh Rajput. So let's start with this. So agenda for this particular application is basic overview of the app, the component design, component communication in Lightning Web Component, and then we will be trying to understand code line by line. So some basic overview. So parent to child communication. A public property of a child can be accessed through parent components by using API decorator, which we just understood. So with the help of this app, we will be able to create one. And then basic overview. So we will be using movie list, which is a parent web component, and movie type, which is a child web component. You can use your own component name. So that's how it works. So this is the component design. Now what exactly it is happening? We have created a parent component named movie list, and inside that I am creating the child component. Child component is having the lightning cards which is using, and then it will be iterating over components and fetching the values. So basically we don't have to keep putting the logic again and again. So that's how the child component is nested inside the parent component. And here we will be understanding the parent to child communication, and also we will be revising the for each directive to understand it clearly. So let's go with the demo. So I will be creating a lightning web component. Guys, I also want to mention that all your chapters and the code will be here in the Lightning Web Component series. So you can go ahead and open as many chapters you want to and go ahead. We have done with the 18 chapters. So you can go ahead and check them out and see the logic there. So right now we are discussing about the tribute to Shashank Singh Rajput made using Lightning Web Component. So our movie tile HTML is created. It is the child component. So let's start with the JS. So firstly, I will be using API decorator because I want to expose it to another component. And here I will be putting, so here I'm just giving the default value for you to see. You have just seen that even if you don't put the default value, it doesn't change anything. So basically what I'm doing is I'm declaring a property which should be an array, and it will hold information about different Shishan movies. And we are creating a public property, so we are putting at the rate API decorator. So because of which it will be available in the parent component. So I will be simply copying that particular information. So I have created an array with different information I want to put. So here I have given it. Now I'm saving it. Now I want to see it in our HTML. So let's start with it. So if you remember the look of that particular component, how it works is we have a picture and then we have some text and then we have different images behind besides it, below it. So let's see how we do it. So I'm just using the Salesforce Lightning Design System, adding a base component that is Lightning card. And now, first of all, what we want, we need to display the image. So let's do that. So we can put any class if we want to. Depends on what we want to do with the class. If we want to reset size or something, we can use that. Now in the SRC, what we want. So see, here we have Shushan movies, the array, and inside that we want to use the banner image. So what I will do, I will say SRC, and then I will simply copy it. And then I can use the alt tag. So what I am doing is I have used the image tag so that I can embed the image in the HTML page, and then I am using the SRC to specify the path, and alt tag, so it is the alternative text for the image. So if the image doesn't come, then it will be showing the alt text. So our image should be coming, and then so let's do some styling. So if we want to have it in the absolute center, then we can use this. Actually, we can remove. If you want multiple classes, then we can do it without with keeping space in between. So we just want absolute center right now, and then whatever we want to show. So again, we want to put Sushant movies, and then the movie name, and then we want to put Sushant movie, then the director name, and then release date. So let's do that. So that's how our lightning card is ready. Now, if you want to have, for example, if you go back and see, there is something called watch trailer besides the movie. So we can just simply add that. So for that, what you need to do, you need to use an anchor tag. So first of all, you will be saying, first of all, you will be creating a button. Again, it's a base component, and then you will be adding values to it. So now I have created that. Now if I want that it should be clickable, so I will be using the anchor tag. And now again, I want anchor tag to show this particular trailer link. So what I will do, I'll use this name dot, and then I will put the trailer name. So on clicking of button, it will go there. Just a minute. And then I can put the target. So for example, I want to open a new tab. So I can say target equal to blank. So then it will open in a new tab. So now let's save it and see where are we for now. So again, I will simply go and so you can see that movie tile is being created. So that's how you will be able to create a movie tile, and then you can do the styling according to how you want it to be. Now I have created the lightning card. Now I want to reuse this lightning card by iterating. So if you see here, I have created a movie tile, and now in the movie list I want to use it and then iterate over it so that we can go through multiple lists of them. So now how we do that? So I will create another movie list, and let's see. It's the parent component. I'm just creating that. So is it echoing right now? So movie list has been created. Now I go back. So I will be copying the JSON file so that we are quickly going ahead. So we have the same JSON file with different movie name, director, stars, rating, release date, banner image, trailer to which we want to iterate. So here now we are doing something important. So please pay some attention. So now what we are going to do is, so basically we are adding a grid container. So by adding grid, so it will be dividing into three columns which we want. So we are doing that. And then we are adding another columns. So we want to divide column and the size of 3. So we will be doing that. So first of all, here I will be using that image which we saw on the top. So I will be just taking the link. So let's see where we have reached so far. So now we have the picture. Now we will be moving ahead. So we have added the image and now we want to add the text. So basically if we want to add the text, again what we will do is, I will take this one and we will say 2 of 3. So basically we are adding the second column. So 1 of 3 what it will do, that is it will take the 33% of the container section and rest will be taking this particular div. So you can see that other div was bigger, right? So you can do that. Now if you use h1 header, still the text will be coming as small. So basically h1 to h6 it takes as a base component. Now if you want to style, we will just show you. So you can see now I can do the inspect, and here I can see that font size. Let's make it 15 px. So like that, we can put this, like it's coming as 25 pics. So I can just simply create. So I just showed you that you can use the div heading. Here I'm saying that how you can use it. If you want to use h1 still, so you can go here. You can create a new file. It should be of same name. You say movielist.css, and once you create the CSS, then you will be adding h1, and then you will be saying it was font size. So you put the font size and you put 25 px or whatever you want to put. So like that you will be doing styling because it's not a class but it is a tag. So then you don't need to use dot operator. You can simply put it like this. Now once that is being done, after that I want to move ahead and do the iteration. So now this is something which is crucial. So I'm putting Sushant movies. This Sushant movies, it is coming from the array. We had access. So we want to give the access to it. So we are putting this. Let's understand in more detail. So now basically what we are doing here is that we have used for each directive and put the property name as Sushant movies inside it. So basically, and we are using it inside the template. And from the array we want to access the current item, so we use for item, and here we want to give it a name, so we can give any name. I am using movies, and this holds the current element when the iteration will happen. Now I want that to call C movies, so I will be simply saying C movie type. So now if I put the C movie type, then it can contain that particular name. So we will see. So here what we have done is that we have added the C movie type. So to access the current element, I have used movies, and then I have used movie name. So it will bring the first nested element for the for each directive. So here the key is unique. So you can see here it is coming as a movie name. I have used the first element, so I have put as movie name. So it will I have assigned the movie name as the key here, and then the Sushant movies is the property. So I'm using that particular property. This is coming from the child, and then I am putting movies. So movies is nothing but this movie which we are using, and I am adding that. So let's see what is the error. So movie tile is correct. Okay. I will just see what happened. Just give me a minute. So we will see what exactly happened. So there was some syntax error coming. Now it's fine. So let's see how it comes. So now you can see that list of movies are coming, but they are not coming as we expected in the line. So basically, you can do the styling and start completing it in the way you want to style it. So that's how you are able to do it. But that's how we are able to iterate and display the list of movies we want to. So that's the basic overview of this particular app. And then you can go ahead and do the styling. Now, you can go ahead and do the homework about displaying the list of quotes the same way I have displayed the list of Shushank movies. And then you can also build an app like Udemy. For this, the whole code is given in Lightning Web Component series. So you can go ahead and copy it from there and complete this particular task from the codes, and also the Udemy is being given. Now moving ahead. So now we just got to know about parent to child communication using properties in Lightning Web Component. Now we will be understanding the parent to child communication using method in Lightning Web Component. So here the agenda is parent to child communication using methods, query selector and query selector all. So basic understanding of public methods. Public methods are method annotated with @API decorator, and then public methods are part of public API of the component, and it can be called from a parent component. So the way we saw that we can call the public property from the parent component, the same way we can call the public method as well. So that's what we will be seeing. So meet the query selector family. So before that, we will be understanding about the query selector. Because of query selector, we can select a particular element from the DOM. That's why it is important. So there is query selector and then there is query selector all. So now about the query selector method. The query selector method returns the first element that matches a specified CSS selector in the document. So for instance, there are two paragraph tags. So at that point of time, what you need to do is, once you are using query selector, it will select only the first paragraph. Then and this is how we write it, this dot template dot query selector and then the CSS selector. In our case, if it is paragraph, then we will use this p. H1, then we will use H1. So like that we can select one, and how many paragraph they are doesn't matter, it will be selecting the first element. Here we have given template. To access element rendered by a component, use the template property. So basically, because we are writing the template, then we have to use this. And we have to note that we don't use window or document global properties to query for DOM element. So you don't have to use something like document.query selector. Instead of that, you will be putting this dot template dot query selector and then the CSS selector. So there is class selector and also the tag selector. So when we are talking about class selector, you will be putting the dot class name, and then when you are putting the tag selector, then you will be putting the div. So that's how it works. So now this is what we learned about query selector. Now there is query selector all. So it returns all element that matches the selector. If no match is found, then null is returned. So basically, now if we want multiple paragraphs, we want all the elements. So for that, we need to use query selector all. We will be understanding it with the help of example. So this dot template dot query selector all, and there the CSS selector will do the help. And then there are CSS select examples. So there is class selector. Again, here we will be putting dot query selector all class name, and then we are putting the div name. It is important to note that we don't use ID selectors with query selector. The ID that you define in HTML template may be transformed into a global unique value when the template is rendered. So we have to note that we don't use ID selector in JavaScript because it might not match the transformed ID, because ID get re-rendered once the template is loaded. So now we will be doing a simple scenario about the hello content using change content using query selector and see how it works. So here we want to simply change the text on the click of the button. So let's see how we do it. So I will be just closing other tabs. So I want to change my text. So I've created a H2 tab and doing that. And now I'm here again. I will be using API decorator, and then I'll be using @API, and then for example I want to use content, which I will show you. So I will be using this is a property. Again, if you want to declare a method and use it in another component, so you will be using @API and then the name. So for example I'm saying change content, and then you will be adding the logic here. So now what I am doing is basically this is like if property is inside the class, then we have to use this. And template, we just know that it accesses the elements rendered by the component. So we use the template. The query selector will display the first. So here, sorry, I will be putting H2. And then the inner HTML. So in the inner HTML property sets or returns the HTML content. So basically we want that on the click of the button, it should change to hello LWC. So because of that, we are going to the inner HTML. So in short, it gets the first element using the query selector and then change the text from change my text to hello lightning web component. So we have done that. Now I will be simply going ahead and creating the parent HTML. So now we have the change content parent. So I will quickly create the lightning card. Now we have just simply created a div, and inside it we will be writing. So we will be putting C, it is namespace, and it is change content. And after putting the change content, we will be putting that particular name. So it is coming from here. So let's see, the name is content. So I will just simply copy it. Uh, so it's here. So it is coming as content. And then here we will be putting the name. So we will be understanding it in more depth just in a minute. Okay, so basically what we have done here is that as the parent component contains the C change content, so because of that we are able to get the property which is at the rate API. That's why we are able to get it, and then we are using another property which is coming from the change content parent.js only, which we will just create, and on creating of that we will be able to use it. So basically it will be uh, able to retrieve whatever method is here. So how it will do it? We want on the click of the button. So I will just simply create the button. And then we want that on click of it, it should invoke a particular method from the JavaScript. So we will be just putting a name. So now what basically we are doing here is that we are basically, this is particular a child component which we are using, and then here we are putting that it is a property which we are using. This property is coming from the child, and the child is just nothing but our change content, and then we are using my content which we just put, and in the my content then we are putting a button, and on the click of the button we will be having this particular content name. So we will be putting like this, and I'm saving it. Now I will be going to the JS. Inside the JS, I will be putting the method. So what I put handle change content, right? On the click of that, something should happen. So I say this dot template dot query selector, and then here we will be putting the name. The name is she dash change content path. So this is the name, and using the child component name. So this is the name, and then we are putting the method we have used. So here we have used change content name. So we will be putting like this. Okay. So what basically we are doing? we went to change content .html. We have put a text, change my text. Then we went here in the JS file. In the JS file, we are doing nothing but putting the logic that change it to hello LWC once click of button, right? So we have not put the click of button logic here. We went to the parent component. Here we say that on the click of this button, do the logic. How we know that? We will be going the handle change content, which is there in the JavaScript, and here we will be putting c child content dot name. So basically, the change content is the method in child component which is having logic to change the text we are calling it from, and we are calling it from the change content name. So let's see what happens. It automatically gets saved. So the name is change content parent. So you can see that once we inspect the element, so you can put the console log we have not put, so nothing will be coming. But if you change the content, so that point of time, it will be able to change our text, which we just saw. So if you focus here, the logic is being written in the child component, and we are calling the child component, that is the change content, by the parent component. How we are doing it? We are doing it by putting query selector, then child content name, and then the child content method. This method, how we are able to invoke it? We are able to invoke by using @API decorator. And here we need to understand that we have to use @API decorator both for property and method. In this case, we are discussing property, so we have to use @API decorator. So here I have just created a diagram as well, so that your understanding is more easier. So go ahead and look at this diagram. Here the parent.html, here there is my content, and then this is being basically it goes to my content from the parent.html. Here it is being declared by @API decorator. So that's how it is coming. And then from here, and then this my content, it is coming from JavaScript of parent.html. So you can see here. And then when you put this template.query selector, so when you put here, what happens? From the parent JavaScript file, it goes and search for the change content. So change content is given in the child JavaScript. It goes there. Once it goes there, it puts the query selector h2. Again, it sees h2, so it finds the h2 tag, and here it goes. One bonus point which I want to tell you, here you have put h2, right? Even if you put the class name, like for example h2 class equal to example, so this is the class name. If you use this as well, you can be able to do that, but for that you have to put dot example, whatever the class name is. So you can do this as well. Let's see what happens. So it is getting changed. So you can do using tag name and as well as the class name. Moving ahead. So now we have to understand the query selector all, because this might get little bit confusing for some. So let's see how that works. So let's give the demo for that. I know we are little ahead of time. So if you have like 20 more minutes, I can show you the bulb and this example. So right now I will be just putting in the child as well instead of creating a new component. So going back, what will happen? There are two H2. Now, if I want to color, now this is the test of your knowledge. If you put query selector H2, what will happen? Because you are putting query selector, it will be taking the first element and making it red color. Though there are two H2 tags, but it will just take the first one and make it the color. So here we have put the logic. Now let's go to the parent component quickly. So I go to the parent component and here I make the changes. Again, you will be putting the name of that child component. This is your method, sorry, this is a property being called from the child, and then this is the property coming from the parent, which we are just calling. So let's see. So this colors is coming from here. So the name is color. And this particular coloring, this is coming from your parent.js, which we will just create. So I go to the parent.js and here I will say coloring, and then I will create a method. This particular method will call the method from the child component. How it will call? This template.query selector, and then we will be putting c dash child, and then whatever the name of the method is, we will be using that. So here it's changed color, so we will be using that. So if you see here, it's changed color in the child.js. So we are using that particular one. So here it is change color. So that's how you will be able to invoke. So I just save it and let's see what happens. So here it is coming as this. Now what we want is we go back to parent.html. So we have created the lightning card, but we need to also put the button because on click of that we want to change the color. So what I will be doing is I will be simply putting the button. So I will put the button. So here after putting lightning button, I will be just putting the label name. And on click, we will be invoking the one which we have just used, that is coming from parent.js, and that is handed click. So let's see what happens. So you can see, you can do the styling the way you want, you can do the spacing and everything, but you can see that only the first element, the first S2, is being colored as red. So now on the same note, now what if you want to color both the elements as red, not the one? So for that you have to use the query selector all. This is little bit important to understand that the first element if we want, we use query selector. If we want the list of elements, so we use query selector all. So let's do that. In the same one, I will create another button. So let me close other ones. So I create another button. So this is the one which we are using. So now before that, I will go to the child.js, and here I will say change color all, and then if I want to console to see what is coming, so we can put the console log. I will just explain in a minute. So basically, as we get the list of elements, so we need to iterate over them to basically color all of them red. So what will happen? We are basically creating this template of query selector all. So we are selecting all the elements having H2 tag. Then once we are selecting it, then we are iterating over each one of them and putting color as red. And then we go to parent.html, and here once we go, we need to change the color. So what we will do, we go to parent.js, and I will change the name. So now let's see what happens. So you can see both of them got colored because it is iterating over each one of them and making it colored. This happens once you use query selector all. And once you use just the query selector, then only first one gets colored, which we just saw. Coming back to the most asked example, that is the switching bulb on and off. So it is using the same logic. So let's go quickly to the HTML, the child HTML, and make the changes. So what is happening there is, first of all, it is using an image. So we will be using an image. We are putting some source, and then let's do some styling. I will come back to the source. So I'm just putting the width, and yeah, just closing it. Now I will go to JavaScript. So I'm creating a property. It's a public property. I'm using it. And now what I want is that I want to on and off the bulb. So what I will do is I simply go here. So basically I will take this particular code. What it is doing is it is selecting image with this particular SRC. So one is bulb on image, one is bulb off image. So what I will do is I will go here and put the name. So here it is image source. So simply I will go here and put image source here. Let's see how it is coming. This is coming as a property. So if I go back, this is the one. Now once I took this, I will go to parent. Here once I go to the parent, what it will do, I will simply create button on and off. So I will be creating two div. So I will just simply create. So I create a div, and inside it I will be putting the button. So you can simply use the button, or you can use the lightning button having its own style. On click, we will be bringing something. We will be using it. Turn on this light, and then so here we will be putting the properties, the methods which we will be just creating. So turn off. So that is coming from parent.html. So I will go to parent.js and I will quickly create one. So I will take the image source. Once I take the image, now I will be creating two buttons, two proper methods. So let me use that. So what we have done is we have created one method. In that particular method, I'm calling child and having its own method bulb on, and then I'm calling bulb off. How it is coming? Here in the this one we have bulb on and bulb off. That is on click of the button. Here we will be putting the name. So handle button on and another is handle button off. So the logic is being written in child.js that it is changing the image. So what happens is originally we have one image that is coming from image src, but once we click on button then it changes. So let's see. So our image, let me see how it comes. So we have taken the image source and then we are going to the child, and here we are putting API image source, and then we are putting the link, and then we go to parent.html, and here we are putting, so here we want to put the image here. So how we will be putting, because image is there in the child component, again we will putting c child, that is the component name, then image source is the property name, and then we will putting the particular method which is coming from here. We put that and then we save it. Now let's see. So you see earlier it was not coming. Let's see. So now it is coming. Why it is coming? The reason being, now we put this one, an image was there in the child element. Here is the image. That's why it was not coming. So let's see. So yes, you can see that we can turn light on and off because of this. To just have a quick revision, what we did, went to child element, we put the image source is coming from here, and here what we have done is bulb on and off and put the query selector to get that particular image, and then we are using source by changing the image, and then in the parent we are just clicking two buttons. The button code is here and it is calling the method from the child. So that's how it is doing. And the image src, it is basically taking the child component. Here if we go, here image source, image src is bringing that particular element. So that's how we are able to do that. So our demo is done for the light, and then your homework is that go ahead and do the converting text to uppercase. Same logic will be applied. You have to do the query selector and then you have to convert to the uppercase. There is compose component trailhead, so I will be encouraging you to go ahead and go to that particular component and see about it. So there is compose components, and whatever we read so far about how we put everything is being given there. So parent child component creation, so please go ahead and read about it. So is there any questions and answers which you want to understand? So one of them is that I guess we need to use at the rate API if it is coming from child. Yes, we need to use at the rate API for property and for method if we want to use it in the parent. So I'm not seeing any other question. So is there any other question, or we can end the session? Okay then, thank you so much guys for attending the session. I would request you to go ahead and read parent to child communication. Once and next session we can discuss about child to parent, which will involve event and which is more tricky. So I will encourage you to start doing trailheads and ask more questions so that I can give more answers to you. So learning is fun, and please like, comment, share, subscribe to SFDC Amplified, and thanks a lot for watching the session.